Okay, so now we're going to take a look at the mix window. So again, I can switch back to that by pressing Command and equals, or I can go to Window and select Mix. So the mix window is linked to the edit window in that all the tracks I see on the edit window here going top to bottom appear in the mix window going left to right. So in the edit window, I can see all my audio clips playing back from left to right. But in the mix window, I have the control to adjust their level, to add signal processing and effects, or whatever I might need to mix the song. So the mixer in Pro Tools behaves very much like an analog mixer in the real world, in that we have volume faders, we have pan pots, we have insert points for inserting signal processors such as compression, equalization, noise gates, etc. We have auxiliary sends, which allow me to send copies of the signal to a different location, either internally in the mixer or back out through my interface, ideally maybe for headphones for the musicians in the studio. Or I can internally use them to maybe send a copy of my audio signal to a reverb or a delay unit for an effect. So the way the signal flow in the mixer window works, if you think of it like this, that the audio flows down through the track, and the volume fader is the last point of the signal flow. So sometimes we think of it like water trickling down. If I flick back to the edit window here, so as the track plays back, Pro Tools is reading the audio information from the audio file that is stored in the audio files folder on the hard drive. And that is playing back, as we can see, left to right on the edit page. And if I flick back to the mixer window, if we imagine that audio is now trickling down from top to bottom, with the volume fader being the last point on that. The volume fader controls how much of the audio goes out to its destination. In this case, my main output 1 and 2 to my left and right speakers. So if we can keep that in our minds, that the signal flow works that way from the edit window to the mix window, we can understand what's happening to it if we are to insert some signal processing using the plugins, or maybe making a send using the auxiliary sends. So let's take, for example, this kick drum and have a look at the inserts. I'm going to solo this kick drum. So the S button on any of the tracks is the solo button, which allows me to listen to that channel or that track in just isolation by itself, or however many of them I have soloed at the same time. So if I just solo the kick drum here by hitting S, it goes yellow, and I hit play by pressing spacebar, we just hear the kick drum track in isolation. I can now apply signal processing to that using the insert section of my mixer window. So by clicking on it, I can add a plugin. And there's many different types of plugins, many that come standard with Pro Tools, and many of these that you're looking at now are ones I have purchased for my own studio as add-ons. But over the course, we will have a look at all the stock plugins that come with Pro Tools. And as I've said before, there's everything you need there to make great sounding records. So let's say I just want to add an EQ filter to the kick drum. So in real time, if I hit play again, in real time, I can adjust this. You can hear the frequencies changing. Now, I'm only using this as an example. I would be much more selective if I was doing this for the actual mix of the song. And then if I want to, I can add another signal processor underneath, maybe a compressor. The compressor evens out the dynamics of the signal and stops it getting very loud or very quiet. And then when I'm finished with my processing, I can unsolo the track and hear what's happening with the rest of the drum kit. And also, as we keep that signal flow in mind, whichever plugin I have first on my insert list comes first in the signal chain. So it can actually make quite a difference to the sound, maybe to EQ it first and then compress it, or to compress it first and then to EQ it. So whichever one I have, I can drag them and move them if I need to. That's worth bearing in mind as we get to the mixing stage later on.